and Mahayana Buddhist traditions. We are cultivating both of these wings of practice of wisdom and compassion. So we saw that in the Theravada tradition, when we talk about the wisdom wing or Vipassana practice, we're talking about these 3 marks of existence. Permanence, suffering, and no self. And we'll have a look at those in a little bit more detail, I think, on day 8. Particularly, we're going to do a little practice on no self. The compassion wing of practice at the foundation level, at Theravada level, of course, is what we've been looking at so far in this session, the 4 immeasurables. In the Theravada tradition, these are often called the 4 Brahma Viharas. In the Mahayana vehicle, Mahayana traditions, what we saw briefly yesterday was that the wisdom wing, the Vipassana wing of practice, we're mainly talking about this wisdom of emptiness. Again, we're going to look at that practice in some detail on day 9. The compassion wing of practice in the Mahayana is we build on the 4 immeasurables to today's topic, which is bodhicitta. But before we do that, let's just briefly review the 4 immeasurables so we have them clear in our mind. So the 4 immeasurables, of course, are loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. And these are 4 qualities we are cultivating towards immeasurable sentient beings, immeasurable living beings, meaning all living beings. And loving kindness, of course, was the wish for ourselves and others to have happiness and its causes. So immeasurable loving kindness is the wish for all living beings to have happiness and its causes. Compassion, of course, the wish, the measurable compassion, the wish for all living beings to be free of suffering and its causes. Empathetic joy is this rejoicing in our own and others' virtues and good fortune. Equanimity is this impartial, unbiased attitude. A mind that is free of attachment to friends, apathy to strangers, aversion, hostility, and so forth to difficult people. So these are the 4 immeasurables that we are cultivating at the foundation level. And then on that basis, we can take that compassion wing of practice to the next level, the level of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta again, a Sanskrit word we can divide into 2. Bodhi is enlightenment, and chitta means mind. So literally, bodhicitta is the mind of enlightenment. It's the mind which aspires to enlightenment for the benefit of others. So this is the definition of the word bodhicitta. The definition is it's the aspiration for enlightenment for the benefit of others. So what we see in that definition then is that we can talk about the two welfares. We talk about own welfare and others' welfare. So own welfare means that we are striving for our own enlightenment. And others' welfare is to help everyone else to be free of suffering to achieve enlightenment. So that is bodhicitta, the aspiration for enlightenment for the benefit of others. Now, we can talk about two types of bodhicitta. There's what's called aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. So aspiring bodhicitta, as the name suggests, is the wish to achieve enlightenment, the aspiration for that. Engaging bodhicitta is actually then taking steps to enlightenment. So the analogy often given here to distinguish the two is that if we want to go somewhere, first we need to have the wish to go there, and then we need to actually take steps to go there. So this is the wish to go to enlightenment, the aspiration, and this is actually then engaging in practices to help us to move towards that goal. So engaging bodhicitta is that mind of enlightenment at the time of engaging in the practices, the 6 perfections. But sometimes you'll hear people talk about the 2 bodhicittas. And usually when they say the 2 bodhicittas, they're not referring to this. Rather, we have what's called conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Conventional bodhicitta is simply this. Ultimate bodhicitta is this. So we often hear that in the Mahayana path, we need to cultivate the 2 bodhicittas. So really we're just talking about cultivating the 2 wings of wisdom and compassion. In terms of conventional bodhicitta, the aspiration for enlightenment for the welfare of others, and ultimate bodhicitta is the wisdom of emptiness together with that. So these are often referred to as the 2 bodhicittas, conventional and ultimate bodhicitta. Any questions so far? Nothing clear? Yeah.
So, before immeasurables from Theravada, if I wish for, I aspire that all sentient beings will not suffer, will be happy, then that makes me kind of a bodhicitta.
No. And we'll see that very shortly. So that's the question is, in the Theravada, when we cultivate the wish for all sentient beings to be free of suffering and have happiness, isn't that bodhicitta? And the answer is no. Bodhicitta is more than that, and we'll see that very shortly. We're in the method for cultivating bodhicitta. Yeah.
Is there any continuum in the way to be bodhicitta? Or
is there any
continuum?
Continuum? What do you mean?
A process in order to get to be bodhicitta?
That's exactly the next topic. The next topic is how to cultivate bodhicitta. It just doesn't happen. We need to do something to develop it, to cultivate it. And And historically, there were two main methods, and we'll look at both of those methods now.
My question is, there are some levels in the way to be bodhicitta?
Ah, okay. Yeah. So, in terms of levels, we can also talk about two levels. Find a space. There is what's called contrived bodhicitta and uncontrived bodhicitta. Contrived means we now go through the process or the techniques we're going to be looking at, and then as a result of that we have, just for a while, oh yes, I really want to achieve enlightenment for the welfare of others. So that aspiration is contrived, meaning we need to put effort and reflect on things to actually develop it. And that's what we need to do now, of course. But then, if we keep working on that, particularly together with then shamatha practice, a more clear, focused mind, then we'll deepen that, and that aspiration will become more developed in us to the point where it becomes what's called uncontrived, meaning that that aspiration now is naturally there and it spontaneously arises in us. We don't have to think about things and generate it artificially. So then it becomes something that is automatically within us. When we achieve this, this is the entry point into the Mahayana path. So when we get here, we can say we've really now entered the Mahayana path. And someone who has this is called a bodhisattva. And then with this aspiration of bodhicitta, we engage in the emptiness practice. And then that bodhicitta is like, this is the door of entry into the path. When we get to this level, we enter the Mahayana path. So bodhicitta is not only the door of entry, but it's the central support for the path, meaning that all of our practices, including emptiness, all the six perfections, are supported on bodhicitta, meaning that that is our underlying motivation there when we're engaging in these practices. So this is the sort of levels we talk about. And when we look at that, and we have actually, I think, in the handouts, let me check. Yes, this Mahayana path chart, which we may look at on day 9, we can divide up the path in a number of segments. And actually, while we're on it, we can see the beginning there is number 2. And number 2 says uncontrived renunciation and bodhicitta. So again, this is the entry point to the path. That's when we have this uncontrived bodhicitta. And then we move along these various stages of the path, supported on that through the emptiness practice. That by deeper and deeper understanding and realization of emptiness, we move along the path. And then we won't go into detail on that, but we can divide it up into many stages. And so each one of those stages, we can give a particular name to the bodhicitta at that stage, depending on what's going on there. So you have like, I think that at the first stage here, it's called earth-like bodhicitta, meaning it's the foundation, solid foundation that we can move forward on. And then later there's another one called gold-like bodhicitta, meaning it's never going to degenerate. And there's very names, so they divide it up into many sections. So if you want to really have an in-depth presentation on bodhicitta and the levels, That's the presentation. I think there's like 22 stages that they divide it up into. But at a very simple, we can say contrived and uncontrived.
So according to that, we are not on the Mahayana path.
Well, I don't know about you, but I know I'm not.
I'm not either.
Yeah. So the question was, according to what I've said, then we're not on the Mahayana path. And I said, well, I don't know about you. I know I'm not. No, I'm not. Of course, what we can say, maybe, depending on our motivation, is we can say we are aspiring to follow that path. That, I think, we could say depending on our motivation. But to actually enter the path, we need this uncontrived bodhicitta. But what we shouldn't understand from that is that that's the starting point. That if until we get there, we're nowhere. So that's not correct understanding. Because actually, if we get to this point here, I mean, already this is like someone who's here, even at that point, is like, wow, they're like way, way up on the path, really, in real terms. It's not like we're nowhere until we get there. I mean, already this is like amazing to be there. Already a lot of things we've internalized and the mental afflictions are much reduced and we've achieved Shamatha. I mean, a lot of things have already happened by that stage. It's not like we have, that's the starting blocks. Down the back.
About the bodhicitta, I'm wondering, is it true that I'm supposed to put everyone else in front of me? And when I do that,
Yeah, good question. So the question is it true that in bodhicitta we're supposed to put everyone else in front of us? There is another presentation that talks about 3 approaches to cultivating bodhicitta. There's what's called king-like bodhicitta, which means I'm the king, I'm going first, and I'll bring everyone with me after me. Then there's what's called the boatman-like bodhicitta, where you have everyone in a boat and you're guiding them across samsara together. So we're all going together to enlightenment. And then there's the shepherd-like bodhicitta, like the shepherd who puts the sheep first takes them home, puts them first. So these are 3 approaches to cultivating bodhicitta. Which one is the most powerful? If we have this attitude, we'll get to enlightenment faster. The shepherd-like. Of course, we're not saying here we're putting ourselves down somehow. I mean, that's what we tend to do, I'm hopeless and so forth. But here, with this attitude, this is really what's called altruism, then we'll actually, because of that attitude, we will actually move faster to enlightenment ourselves.
reminds me of the verse you read yesterday from Shamatha.
Sure. Exactly, yeah.
Again, but I want to ask, we always told that until we be a Buddha, we cannot help others. So you cannot be the shepherd that pushes others. We can't help them, we don't know what they need.
So the question is, isn't it that we can't really help others until we achieve enlightenment? No, yes and no. I mean, yes, of course we can help people now, but we're limited in what we can do now. So it's not like, you just wait there, I have to achieve enlightenment, I'll help you when I get to enlightenment, just wait there, I'm not going to do anything for you now because I can't help you. So this attitude, I think, is not the correct attitude. The correct attitude, though, is let's do what we can now to help others, but if we really want to be more effective in helping others, we need to put effort in purifying our mind and achieving full awakening, achieving enlightenment. So we need that balance of developing ourselves, moving to enlightenment, at the same time helping others whatever way we can. So that's, I think, important. Otherwise you do. Sometimes I hear people say, well, I can't help anyone now because I have to achieve enlightenment first. So and they justify not helping people with that. They say, it says so in the thing. So I can't. I'm not going to help anyone because I can't. I'm just going to do my own thing. I think this is not very healthy.
The shepherd thing is to lead people to enlightenment.
Right.
To be the last, but you don't know how to lead them to enlightenment because you haven't been.
Right, but with this attitude, you will find that the practices you do for yourself are more powerful and you'll actually go faster to enlightenment. The shepherd is not saying, I'm not going to do anything for myself, but they put others first. So the shepherd's not saying, I'm only going to help others, I'm not going to meditate or do anything for myself. That's the other extreme.
It seems a little bit aristocratic. We're busy with the kings and the princes and so forth. What about simple human beings who don't aspire to be bodhicitta, who are trying to be better human beings?
Right.
I don't see any discourse about them. You don't mention them. Or are we supposed
So the
to...
question is, what about just helping people in a simple way? Is that the question?
No,
Oh.
no. I'm asking, you are describing and talking and everybody bodhicitta is 2 types, 3 types.
Sure.
I'm asking, what is the status of simple Buddhist who is not striving to be bodhisattva? Layman, human being, just human being. Accept Buddhism, try to build better. He doesn't think he will be Buddha. Where are they in the picture?
Here.
Where?
Here.
That's for them.
No, so this is the steps we go through. This is the progress. This way.
Okay.
So, of course, if we try and start here, that's not going to work, is it?
What do you mean doesn't work?
Well, because we're not even... We're being very selfish. We couldn't care less about others.
No,
So what we need to do first is, as you rightly said, first we need to be kind to ourselves and we need to start to be kind to others.
Okay.
Then we extend that out to being kind to everyone. That's this.
Okay.
So that's the next step. So first, kind to ourselves, then start to be kind to others, then keep expanding that to be kind to everyone. That's this. Then we're talking about something more than that. So these are the stages.
I understand. Those who are in the first stage, don't they deserve a name?
Yes, good people, kind people. Of course.
I'm serious.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So all I'm doing here is trying to give us a clear framework for where we are now and what are the steps we want to be moving, which is the direction we're trying to head in. I'm not saying that now we have to have this. This is not going to work unless we have the basis. As you said, if we're not kind to ourselves or others, what are we talking about bodhicitta for? That's why this is the foundation for this. And the foundation for this, of course, is simply kindness and compassion for ourselves and others. So we need to do it in a step-by-step way. Exactly. That's all.
Isn't it that a Theravada practitioner is the one who don't aspire for bodhicitta,
Correct, because as we're going to see tonight in the presentation this evening, the philosophical system that is the basis of Theravada say that when you become an arhat and then this body finishes, you're blown out like a candle. Finished.
Okay,
Never to come back again.
that's the answer for me, I think.
So therefore, according to their understanding, bodhicitta would be impossible. I mean, to help liberate everyone. Because when we become an arhat, we've maybe got 10, 20, 30 years to be very effective, and then it's end of story, finished. So why would you ever think about trying to have this idea of bodhicitta? It wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense. But certainly four immeasurables we can do, to aspire to be kind and compassionate to all living beings. That we can do regardless of whatever philosophical system we're following, regardless of if we're even Buddhist. I mean, that's something I think we can all try to aspire to.
The uncontrived level is only after we've achieved 9-stage Shamatha?
Yeah. So the question is, uncontrived only comes from having shamatha. Yes, because our mind is not stable and clear enough to be uncontrived. It's still not, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not balanced enough for the contrived to become uncontrived.
Can you fall back from being a bodhisattva?
The question is, can you fall back from being a bodhisattva? Generally, it's said that when we first have this, then it's not stable. But then when we, of course, combine this with this, and we start to move in this practice, then because of that emptiness and purifying the mind a little bit, then it becomes stable. So there's a point then where you won't fall back, but it's because of this.
The door closes and you can't go.
One-way ticket.
Question. You mentioned 3 different ways to, are there 3 different there are also different techniques, or it's...
No, it's just a perspective.
Sorry?
So these are just the perspective you're taking. Like, I want to go first and then bring them after. But the techniques we're going to talk about right now.
They have different techniques. Like, if I use this kind of technique, it means I'm thinking...
No, not really. I think you could apply this in each of these techniques, perhaps. I'd have to think about that. But no, there's not a separate technique for each one.
And also, about what he asked before, as I understand it, it's like, listen, I'm not an arrogant person. I don't even think about becoming a Buddhist.
Sure.
I just want to be a good person.
Sure. And that's where we need...
So there is also kind of tricky question in it. Because if you say this is where I'm aiming to, it's a bit arrogant. You know what I mean? Because
the question is...
I want to go through all these phases, and I believe I can do it.
Correct.
Means I can be very high. Means I appreciate myself very much.
So the question is, I think, isn't it a little bit arrogant to be aiming for the top for bodhicitta?
Not arrogant, but not modest.
One of the qualities in this path that we develop in a huge amount is humility. Humility. So I don't think there's... I mean, if we have an arrogant attitude, this is antithetical or opposite to bodhicitta. This is the exact opposite of bodhicitta. So if we have this attitude, we're not going to get anywhere.
Obviously, but the question is like, okay, we are here, you two, you say about yourself, I'm not,
Sure.
way. So I just want to improve myself step by step.
Correct.
And in the end, I might
Sure.
My thoughts, and
Sure.
this is a different way of thinking.
Sure, and that's what I'm trying to present here is this step-by-step approach.
And is it also connected to what you said before, the way that the Buddha talked to different people on different levels is because of the